All right, I'm here with Erica LaCentra, the Chief Marketing Officer at RCN Capital. Erica, thanks so much for taking a couple minutes with us today. We're excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're going to be talking about specifically telemarketing because, Erica, as you know, and maybe many of our students know that are watching this, there's been some recent updates to legislation around telemarketing rules and compliance, especially in the real estate and mortgage space. So, one of the questions that I know that I've had, and in your role as the Chief Marketing Officer, what do you even see as the purpose of these telemarketing laws, such as the Telephone Consumer Protection Act?
That's a great question because anytime new legislation or new regulations go into effect, people think, okay, this is going to make my life a lot harder. That being said, really, these laws and these regulations go into effect to protect the consumer themselves, making sure that they're being solicited by businesses they're actually opting in to be solicited to. And also, I really think it's a positive change because loan officers and mortgage companies should realistically see higher conversion rates if they are reaching an audience that of people that are actually opting in to be solicited to. Nobody likes robocalls that they didn't sign up for. So I think overall it is a good thing, although I'm sure people are a little annoyed by the updates to the law.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to make things harder, but to your point, the law that's been designed to protect the consumer will also make us, I think what you're saying is more effective as loan officers in our ability to market in a compliant way and in an engaging way. So
Mm-hmm.
I think these are good changes and potentially, solutions that'll help us be better at our craft. Now, we live in a world, Erica, and you and I have been talking about this, where laws are constantly changing, regulations are constantly evolving. So, one of the things that I'm curious about is how do you lead your team in this environment of constantly evolving and constantly changing regulations and laws, especially when it comes to telemarketing?
Yeah, it's one of those things that we constantly have to have a pulse on, whether it's telemarketing, email marketing. There's so many changes going on, especially from a consumer opt in perspective. It's really just a sense of having a pulse on what's going on and then really being able to properly relay that to not only my marketing team, but also our sales team in terms of what is and isn't in compliance. It is one of those things where you don't want to be caught holding the bag or doing something that you shouldn't be doing because those penalties can be pretty hefty. But definitely, as a marketing professional, working alongside our legal team, making sure we're keeping abreast of all of the different changes that are going on, putting different educational resources and trainings into effect to ultimately make sure that information trickles down throughout the organization.
Great points, Erica. I think what I heard, because I'm in the education space, is the word education a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
And I think having those conversations, being educated, is going to help insulate our team, our loan officers, ourselves as producing loan officers from potential regulatory issues. Because I've already seen in the social media world the chatter about real estate agents saying, well, we just got fined for doing this, or mortgage brokerages being fined for doing things that they shouldn't have been doing. And so I know the regulators are looking at this stuff, and so I think it's a very important conversation to be having right now. As kind of a follow-up to that, in your conversations, in your education with your team, and with your conversations and education with the loan officers that you partner with, what are some of the most common mistakes that you see loan officers making when it comes to non-compliance with these telemarketing laws as they fit into our business nowadays?
Yeah, so it's a pretty common conversation that I'll have with our sales team in terms of, if our sales team is looking to have additional leads enter their pipeline, why can't we just buy lists that I can cold call? Why can't I just do outreach? Why does it have to be something where I'm not announcing where I'm from right off the bat? Like small things like that. It goes into our training in terms of even just scripting with our sales team in terms of you have to identify where you're calling from, what the purpose of that call is right off the bat. making sure that you're giving people the ability to opt out from text messaging or robocalling immediately and then making that very obvious. Also making sure that that opt-in is very clear when people are either calling in or emailing or submitting forms, things like that. A lot of that stuff is taken care of on the back end of our all of our different interactions by marketing to make sure that a lot of those things are not left up to the loan officers. But again, it comes down to education and making sure that like we're telling them this is a good thing. We're sending and creating all of these different things for you guys so that you're getting more qualified leads that want to actually engage with us about our services, as opposed to you cold calling people and them having no idea why you're calling them whatsoever.
So transparency, permission, these are all key like kind of buzzwords in this
Mm-hmm.
telemarketing environment. And one of the things I think you just kind of brought up and touched on was the technology that you use, the systems that you have in place to kind of help manage some of these marketing outreach efforts, like the text messaging, the
Mm-hmm.
automated phone calls, the voicemail drops, the things that have been happening in our business over the last couple of years. A lot of those should have practices in place to already comply with and adhere to these telemarketing laws. But just be aware that that's something that I think what you're saying is be aware that's something you need to make sure is in place if you are implementing these technologies and systems. Now, Erica, a follow up to that, we're in 2025 now. And artificial intelligence, right? Artificial intelligence is everywhere. We're interacting with it on a daily basis. You're an expert in the marketing field. How can you still leverage AI in a telemarketing environment and maintain compliance with these laws? Is it safe to do that? Are there ways to do it effectively?
I mean, I definitely think there are ways to do it effectively, but you need to be very well informed how to execute those campaigns where you are making sure that the people you are in contact with are truly opting in on a one-to-one basis to receive that communication with you. By that, I mean like they are expressly providing their permission to either be contacted via phone or text message, specifically in this case. And then also giving them the opportunity where it is very easy if they no longer want to receive these calls or text messages from you, they can opt out essentially with a one click, a one word text message, making it abundantly easy that just because they gave that express permission up front, if they ever want to remove that permission, it is just as easy for them to do so. So I mean, I think there are incredibly effective AI tools that can do some of those robocalling capabilities, some of those text message campaign capabilities, but just make sure you are staying on top of what the regulations are because, as we talked about, if you get caught doing something that's out of compliance, that can be not only a hefty fine, but also have major consequences for your organization.
Right. And, as you probably are aware, in marketing efforts, especially on a bulk level scale, when you're deploying some of this technology, the AI messaging, the robocalls, like it's happening thousands of times, right? And if you're not following the law, you could potentially be punished for each individual violation of the law,
Exactly.
which is I think is what you're saying when it comes to hefty fines and penalties. So, well, Erica, one last question, and this might be the $1 million question for our audience. In this world of marketing, social media, telemarketing, and the changes that we're talking about, how do we, as loan officers, and how would you advise us as loan officers to continue to craft messaging? And here's the key words that is both compelling, because that's the gold standard when it comes to marketing, compelling your customer to take action. We want to be both compelling and compliant. How do we do that in 2025?
And I think, like, as I mentioned, I think a lot of the opt in rules that are developing are really valuable and will prove over time to be more beneficial for organizations. Again, you are getting folks that are interested in communicating with you about your products and hopefully ultimately getting through the origination process and closing a loan with you. That being said, there are certain things that you can do to incorporate into the process of where you're actively engaging with them to get that opt in permission to collect information that can ultimately personalize the messaging you're providing to them and make it more compelling. So don't think of some of these regulations as, a hindrance to your business, but if you have to essentially have a form, create it, have that opt in on there, utilize those forms where you're actually collecting information that can be utilized in messaging that's customized to that customer. It also comes off as less of like a pre-canned or robocall-esque type of conversation if you can sprinkle in tidbits that they have provided to you that make the conversation and the outreach more relevant to them. So it's kind of combining that. You're getting a more engaged customer already. You're collecting some of that information up front, and then you're peppering that in to create a more compelling message overall.
I love it, Erica. Thank you so much. Great points, amazing advice. I'm excited for our loan officers to see this and to learn from you. So, once again, this was Erica LaCentra, the Chief Marketing Officer at RCN Capital. Erica, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.